It's Tuesday, August 27th. I'm Jeff Nodell. Hello, San Juans. We've been off for a couple weeks, mainly because of the county fair. We had to basically tear the control room apart to move it to the county fair, and then we had to put it all back together. So that took us out of pocket for two weeks in a row. This is, hey, what's going on around here? And to my left is Heather Spalding, my good friend, editor of the Journal of the San Juans. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
We're outside the fire department, as you can see. We're in the driveway.
So by a big fire truck too.
So we have two nice guys who have let us set up our table right in the parking lot, as you can see. To my right, far right, is Dwight Colley, and you are chair of Fire District 3. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. And then Noel Monin, whose name I've been saying wrong for half a year.
You're not alone in that.
I'm not alone, but I'm going to fix that. You're chief of San Juan Island Fire and Rescue.
That's correct.
And thank you both for being here.
Well, thank you.
We're going to talk the first two blocks about the fire department, what it's like, what are the challenges, what are the fun parts, and then we're going to use that last third block to talk about the levy, which you're on the ballot, I guess, in November 5th.
That's correct.
Is that right? Okay. First, I'm going to mention that this is the last show, I guess, that we'll be doing under the banner of CNL2. At the end of this show, I'll announce the new name of this. Nothing really changes except the name. I've been getting grief for a year about the name. I love the name. Bye. But we have a new board, a nonprofit board, and they feel like in their communications in the community that we could have a better name. So you only have to wait 55 more minutes to find out what that name is. So, okay, well, let's talk about San Juan Island Fire and Rescue. Where do we start? Let's start with you, Dwight. How long have you been with the fire district?
I was elected 2 years ago. It's an elected position, and I was elected 2 years ago. And during that time, probably the most important thing that we've done is we hired a chief. And I've got to say publicly that my best decision, not just mine, pardon me, but the board's best decisions, there are three of us. There's Warren Appleton and Alexa, and was to hire Noel. And things have really turned around and fallen into place since he's been on board. And so I just want to publicly throw that out. But the commission is responsible for setting policy and fiscal matters for the department. The commission does not have any say in the operations of it. Now, that being said, if we didn't like what was going on, you know, there are ways we could manage things, but the operations is left entirely up to the chief. And that's because, first of all, I know nothing about being a fireman. I've never been one. I took the job, ran for election when I was an emergency medical technician over at San Juan EMS. And so that I know, but being a fireman, I didn't. And Alexa, she is a volunteer fireman, and Warren Appleton is served on other fire commissions as well. So the three of us, as I say, set the policy and the fiscal part of the fire department, and it's very fortunate. We all get along very well. So.
What made you want to be on the commission in the first place?
That's kind of a weird story. I was sitting having coffee. I was on a shift at EMS, and I was having coffee, and many of you know her. Wei Shan Kun came in and said, "Dwight, you need to run for fire commission." And I said, "No, I don't." And I had served on many boards before, outside of San Juan, mental health boards, police and police boards and things like that, but they were all appointed positions. I had never run for election, and I had no interest in running for my election. And she left, and I remember it was one of the other paramedics told me, "You've had it, you're gonna run, but she's not gonna let you go." And so she and I sat, because we'd worked with, of course, EMS and fire worked very closely together.
Right.
And I knew the people over at fire, and so things were not going well. And I said, okay, I finally gave in and said, okay, I will. Because I knew I had expertise in running boards, in serving on boards, and I knew that I could add something. So I said, okay, I did, and of course I ran it and won by 69 votes. And it's been it's been an experience. I'll say turning something around that was headed in the wrong direction, and it has turned around, and it wasn't just me, it was the other two members as well, and the chief, and things are going the way they should be going now.
Great.
And now, of course, we've got some fiscal difficulties, and that's why we're going to be talking about the levy.
Yep.
But that's just the way things are.
And so what I'm hearing is that you're a politician now. I'm kidding. You don't look like a politician.
No,
But you technically are a politician. You
yes,
had
I
to-
am. I hung around politicians for 20 years because, as many people know, I'm a retired U.S. Secret Service agent. So therefore, I hung around that, and what do they say about politics? You don't watch it unless you like how sausage is made. And no, it's been an experience, I must admit. But I've been very grateful for the ability to get involved and make things, at least the way I look at them anyway, better. And it's not, again, I've got to say, it's just not me. It's the other members and the chief.
Has nothing to do with our topic today, but would you be willing to come back and talk about the Secret Service
No.
at some point? No? Okay.
I retired in 1995, so things have changed considerably since
got
then,
it.
I'm sure.
Got it. Okay, and Chief, tell us about your history here on the island.
Well, my history goes back to 1996. I moved here from Cedar Woolley, which is in Skagit County, and moved here for work. I was working for Washington State Parks at the time, and ended up living at Limekiln State Park, one of the old Coast Guard dorms there, and working seasonally as a park aide. And
I'm jealous every time I walk by those.
yeah, it was an amazing place to live.
What a front yard.
One of the most memorable experiences I had living there was waking up in the summer, perfect midnight summer night with full moon, and hearing a lot of whale activity, and scrambling down to the lighthouse, and it was a super pod event where we had two pods meeting, and they were doing their rituals, and I was all by myself soaking it up for hours. And it's just a special spot. That's a real special place. So yeah, that started my life on San Juan Island, and I've been here ever since. And that's how I got into the fire service. My boss at the time, who's a retired park ranger now, Chris, he was a volunteer, and under no uncertain terms, he made it clear I was going to be a volunteer. And when I balked a little bit, like, well, I like my time off, I want to do things. And he's like, no, because when I go to a fire, you're going to a fire, because we work together, and you need to be a volunteer. So, which I'm glad he pressed it, because I enjoyed it, got involved, and have been involved ever since.
I'm guessing, how long have you been in this position now?
The current position I'm in,
Chief.
as chief, the commission appointed me in February.
Okay. Have you been thinking for a while that you'd like to be chief, or did they just come to you and surprise you with this?
No, I've been preparing. I've been, I went to school and finished an associate's degree in business administration.
Wow.
To gear up and take that on. I also served on the town council for 14 years, and I feel like that helped prepare me in a lot of ways, just in governance and civics and understanding how the systems work.
Now, we have a deal here. If there's a structure fire, you get to leave, but Dwight, you don't. You have to stay.
So, and then just seizing the moment when there was opportunities to grow in the position. I started at the low position as a firefighter maintenance worker, and my job was to be a mechanic and be a custodian and respond to fires. And I worked up through the ranks to lieutenant and leading a crew, leading supervision, and then a captain, and responsible for the entire maintenance division, and eventually training officer when Brad Creasy, then the training officer, had moved up to the chief position. And I did try to promote to the chief position some years ago, and the commission at the time determined I probably wasn't ready yet, and went with someone else. And then most recently, the commission went through a hiring process and appointed me. So,
Was that a competitive process?
yeah, it was.
But it was pretty clear that he was the choice, right?
Well, no, it was not. We got some very good people who applied for the job. But the biggest thing that Noel had going for him was he's from here. He knew the place, he knew the people, and having served on the town council, we knew that he knew how to get things done. And that, at the end, that was probably the thing that tipped it. And of course, anytime you hire someone for here, you never know if they're going to stay because of where we are and how difficult it is to live here.
We need to probably silence that phone if we can. So, explain for us the way the EMS and the fire department interface here.
We have an agreement. We have a memorandum of understanding, and we have a service agreement. So currently, the fire district is our model now meets those agreements and the memorandum of understanding, where we provide EMTs and first responders for all calls that are considered critical medical. That's ALS, an advanced life support type call. We automatically get called to those, and we go help. The other level of service that we provide is by request. So if San Juan Island EMS says, hey, we need some help, and it's not critical, if we can, we will go help. It's a request, and generally, I think we've denied one call, and it was only because the staff were on the opposite end of the island, and by the time we got there, it wouldn't have made a difference. So that agreement's in place, and in return, we do get a small fee in return of $4,000, and then we also receive training under OTEP, under the training program that maintains EMT credentials through San Juan Island EMS. That's the current arrangement that we have right now.
It's kind of complicated.
Yeah, it is and it isn't. They're providing training, giving us a little money, and we're going on calls. It's that. I mean, that's what it boils down to.
Okay.
But the agreements are good because it creates understanding what the expectations are.
So, do you have a question?
Not right now, but I
Okay.
do have some in my head, so
So-
they're coming.
So also explain the difference between the professional, the paid firefighters, and the volunteer fighter. How does that work?
There's no difference between in terms of the tasks assigned based on role. So we have volunteer officers, we have volunteer firefighters, we have volunteer support members. The staff, the paid staff, we have part-time staff, and we have full-time staff. The expectations are no different in terms of attending training, meeting standards, and performing.
So they're not called volunteers, they're called part-time?
No, volunteers are volunteers, so we do have part-time
So
employees.
there's three?
Yeah.
Three types?
There's
okay.
three job types. The paid staff are on schedule. They get a paycheck. They get an hourly pay, and of course, the expectation in terms of outside of being a firefighter, such as taking on projects and other responsibilities, they are much higher. We don't expect volunteers to essentially run programs or manage programs. The volunteers do also receive some benefit for being a volunteer. So we have a fee-based system for our volunteers. So they get a monthly pay. So it's a fee. Essentially, we have to build the system so they don't become employees in order to be a volunteer.
Right.
If you give too much, they become an employee, and then we have to pay. It's more expensive for the district. So we meet that threshold where we keep them just under the employee status so that we actually save a lot of money for the district.
How many volunteers do you have, and do you need more?
Currently on our active roster, we're sitting right about 40 total. So yeah, we do, because 7 of those are support members, so that leaves 33 that are active firefighters. Ideally, 50 is our number. It has been our number. The number we look at for volunteers really is what I call the standing army, for lack of better words. So I consider a volunteer available 1/3 of the time. So at any time of the day or night, 1/3 of those volunteers will be available to respond to an emergency. And we need to effectively respond to a structure fire, we need about 15 to 20 people. And then so if you add the staff to it and the people who are on shift, and you have a pool of volunteers, we can safely respond to a basic structure fire.
At any given time, about how many full-timers and part-timers do you have on duty?
So we have currently, we have 3 part-timers, 2 part-timers, and they're on shift, 1 full-timer on shift. So that's a total of 4 shifts. And then we have, on day staff, we have 4 responders. And
So you would be very dependent on volunteers?
Yes,
in a
yes.
major-
And day staff, they have time off, and if we have a call back, I would hope that my day staff can show up, but it's not guaranteed. They go off and do things on weekends. They have other lives, so.
Do the volunteers carry pagers?
They do. We have a notification system. We provide them with pagers and an app on their phone that also interacts with the paging sequence.
In Missouri, when I did the original County News Live for 6 years, I was so involved with 5 different fire departments, I carried 2 fire pagers.
Yeah.
They gave me pagers so I could
So you can be there.
cover
Yep.
their work.
That's
Yeah, it was
great.
amazing. Lastly, we're going to take a break here, control room in just a minute. I would ask this question even without the levy. So this is not a levy-related question. This is a question I would ask anyway. Is the pay for the part-time and the full-time competitive? Are we competitive right now?
We're slightly under competitive.
What's the morale? We'll get back to that in the levy question.
The morale is good. I think the paid staff are suffering a little because I'm very transparent that we have some financial concerns, and there will be changes moving forward regarding whether we have funding or not next year, additional funding beyond what we have, and they know that. And I think
that affects morale.
it does affect morale. And we've had recently 2 of our career officers had resigned. One went to the sheriff's office for a job, and the other went to Olympia Fire Department to take on a job there. Whether that's a result of concerns about this or not, I don't know, but that's a change in staffing in a big way. It is helping us. Unfortunately, we lose institutional knowledge. Fortunately, it's helping to clean the budget for the year and keep us in a more sustainable position in our ending fund going into next year.
So are you saying that it helps to downsize right now in the full-time
Well,
staff?
the plan would have been to downsize anyway if we didn't see more funding.
Okay,
But
well-
by them voluntarily moving on with careers,
Right.
it's less painful for others.
Okay, that sounds like stuff we're going to pick up in the third block on the discussion of the levy. So when we come back, after a 2-minute break, we're going to talk about what it's like to be a firefighter here and what keeps the chief up at night. I assume that there are some things that keep you up at night. I haven't met a fire chief yet or a police chief that didn't have things like that. We'll learn what those are. We'll be right back.